All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Ann Swanson, and I'm here with Stephanie Munez. And up in the top corner, if you see the videos, there also is Krista. She's waving now, and that is our program director. So if you do want to know more about teacher training or the Yoga for Arthritis program in the future, you'll probably be emailing her quite a bit. So I just wanted to first introduce myself and Stephanie. And basically, I want to hand it over to Stephanie more after that point because she's going to tell you about the program and how it develops and Hopkins. Let's see if I can go. So this is what we're going to do in this webinar, introductions about the research and the teacher training. And then I'm going to give you 6 practical tips for yoga for arthritis that you can use as a teacher and apply, or if you have arthritis yourself or yourself. And if you're joining in it live, you can also type any questions in the chat box in the bottom. And if you're not live, then you can feel free to email us at, well, I have a list of all the emails toward the end, but info@arthritis.yoga would be a good email, Stephanie? Okay, that's one good email to email us at. And I just wanted to tell you first, those of you that are interested in the training, we have a lot of upcoming trainings, one being in Tucson, Arizona in September. We also have Kripalu coming up. So for more lists of the trainings, you can go to arthritis.yoga. And I am actually going to hand it over to Stephanie so that she can talk about herself a little bit and about how the program started, and then she'll hand it back to me.
Okay, so, and you can go ahead and advance the slide.
Right.
The origin of Yoga for Arthritis started when I joined the Arthritis Center at Johns Hopkins Hospital and University. So it's a long and serendipitous story, but the short of it is that one of the faculty in the Arthritis Center had just taken her first yoga class, and it was the first time she had ever enjoyed exercising. And instead of wanting to be distracted from the experience to just get it over, she found herself wanting to engage and pay attention, and felt as though this could be really beneficial for the patients in the Arthritis Center. Particularly, she was thinking about the patients who had rheumatoid arthritis. I had written a short review of the very scant but existing research on the effects of movement for people with rheumatoid arthritis, and had shared my paper with the Arthritis Center and was called in for a meeting. I was basically offered a position right then and there. So I became a research assistant in the Johns Hopkins Arthritis Center. I had recently become a yoga teacher, and so I started taking what I had learned from the integral yoga tradition, figuring out how that would work with people who were living with arthritis, and it was really learning on the job. So I took what I had learned from basic teacher training and started adapting, modifying it in order to find out how it could best serve our patients with arthritis. And over the course of several years, as I then worked toward my PhD in public health, I worked with the faculty of the Arthritis Center to develop the largest and most rigorous research study to date, looking at the effects of yoga for people with rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis, evaluating the effects physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and the results of that were pretty astounding. So what we found during the course of that 7 years of developing and evaluating that yoga program was that it improved physical fitness, it improved psychological health and well-being, it improved an individual's sense of their ability to do physical things in the world, it improved mental health, and there even is an indication that it changes disease symptoms, and particularly that it has a profound impact on pain. So those were very exciting findings, and during the time that I was working on that study, I was contacted by people living with arthritis and yoga teachers who wanted to learn more about how to work with this population. Arthritis is incredibly prevalent. It's the single leading cause of disability in the U.S. And so any yoga teacher is going to find that people come to their class who have arthritis. And many people who are already practicing yoga eventually find that they themselves are developing arthritis. And we know that arthritis can be a beneficial management strategy for people with arthritis. So for all of these reasons, it was incumbent upon me to spread the word about how to help make yoga accessible and most beneficial for this population. So I started taking our research protocol and training yoga teachers to deliver that same research protocol that was associated with all of those benefits out into the world.
And this
so that's
is really
the background of the Yoga for Arthritis story.
I was going to say this
Go
is
ahead,
really
Ann.
unique because there's not a lot of evidence-based and evidence-informed programs out there for yoga and for integrative health. Can you say a little bit more about the importance of that in order for us as yoga teachers and professionals to integrate into hospitals, into mainstream settings?
Absolutely. So I will say, just to be clear, that because this is evidence-based does not mean that it is the world's best yoga program for people with arthritis. We don't know that. What we do know is that it works. We know that people who practice this particular yoga program, on the whole, experience benefits in all of those areas of health that we mentioned. And when we have evidence of that kind, when we have a strength of an association between a particular behavior and a particular set of outcomes, we can expect that people who do this in the future are likely to experience some of those benefits, the most important of which is that it's safe, that there was not a single, what we call an adverse event related to practicing yoga. And in an era where there's a lot of media hype about how yoga can be dangerous if it's not practiced appropriately, we can say this is an example of how to practice yoga appropriately. And when you have that evidence, then you have a leg to stand on. When you go into a hospital setting or looking to get referrals from a doctor's office or talking about how yoga can be safe and appropriate, either with potential clients or students or yoga facilities, integrative health centers that might be interested in offering something, but they might be a little bit nervous about, well, what's the safety, what's the liability, are people going to be feeling better? And especially in an era where many integrative professions are licensed and yoga is not, we want to have something that speaks the language of the medical community, that we can say, okay, from the perspective of research evidence, we do have some suggestion that this is a safe and beneficial program.
And you don't have to be a yoga therapist to take the program, but for those of us that are yoga therapists, this is a program we're working closely with IAYT, the International Association of Therapists, as a specialty program to develop it to be a part of continuing education. So that's a bonus. You're either working toward becoming a yoga, you are now one. I just found out today that
so there are. Congratulations, Anne. The first wave of grandparented certified yoga therapists has gotten their recognition. So it's an exciting time, but there are a few different ways that this material can be used. One, for yoga teachers trained at the 200 level or the 500 level or more, yoga teachers of any kind are going to find that they're faced with students who are experiencing arthritis, whether it's a beginner class or an advanced class, a gentle class, a seniors class. There will be people in your classes who have arthritis. So attending this training can be a way to just feel a little bit more comfortable and more equipped to handle of those students. Additionally, if you're interested in offering specialty classes for the arthritis population in particular, so if you're a yoga teacher, again, trained at any level, a yoga teacher who wants to teach people with arthritis or populations that tend to have a high proportion of arthritis. So again, if you're going into a senior center or if you're at an integrative health facility, if you tend to work with older populations, or you teach classes that are gentle or for chronic pain, then you might be interested in going a bit deeper with this material. And certainly, if you're a yoga therapist, or if you're working toward becoming a yoga therapist, one of the most common reasons people seeking out yoga classes, private sessions, yoga therapy, is because of pain. And all forms of arthritis are associated with some pain, as well as other symptoms like stiffness and fatigue, loss of mobility that yoga can also be helpful with.
And when you say all forms of arthritis, she's speaking of that there's over 100 different types of arthritis, which I didn't know until I took this program with Stephanie a few years ago. And so when we say arthritis, it's really this umbrella term of all these different conditions that all usually associated with pain.
Right, so some of them could include, well, certainly rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis that we mentioned, but also gout and lupus, ankylosing spondylitis, even juvenile arthritis. There are 300,000 children in the U.S. right now who have arthritis. So understanding more about all of the conditions that fall into that umbrella, how they're different, and what the experience is of people who are living with these various conditions can make you more of greater service to those clients and students who approach you to incorporate yoga into their self-care strategy.
Yeah, and for me, as you were speaking about, like, you can actually teach the protocol as an evidence-based protocol, yoga for arthritis, sometimes when I offer a class that's at a retirement community compared to just calling it yoga, I call it yoga for arthritis, it fills up a lot faster. And I'm mentoring somebody right now. She approached a retirement community, and 30 people signed up for her yoga for arthritis class. And their previous yoga program had been a bust. So she actually has to split it, and she had to get help and all of this. So it really does make a difference because so many people have a diagnosis of arthritis. When you get to be a senior, it's over 50%. The majority of people have some sort of arthritis. So really important for that population.
And they say, just strictly from a business perspective, if you're a yoga professional and your yoga is your livelihood, they say there are riches and niches that you set yourself aside by becoming a specialist in an area and you have a certain expertise in that area, then you become more trusted to deliver that particular information. So when we say, I'm offering a yoga class at a senior center, that could be a little bit intimidating. But when you say it's yoga for arthritis, then people who have arthritis know that they're going to be safe there, that they're going to find a home, that it's going to be a class that is tailored to their particular limitations, their aches and pains, that they might be intimidated to take a yoga class when it doesn't have that particular title associated with it.
Yeah, and your research, it was a 7-year clinical trial, but just this past year it was released, and if you see on the slide on the right, it got quite a bit of press. I think a lot of people are becoming more and more interested in adapting yoga for arthritis and for people that feel intimidated by yoga overall.
Yeah, we were excited about how much press it received because I think, and this is actually why I developed this teacher training program, because there was a lot of media interest when we first started this research, and I wish that I had this evidence to be able to provide much sooner. So I'm glad now we have a few papers out from the study that we did, and we're able to share what we did and how successful it was.
And down here,
and there now you see
the name. Yeah.
Yeah, and above that, so at the bottom is the title of the outcomes paper there, and you can search in a research database to find that. It's also available on our website. And above that are some images from the DVD that we developed with the Arthritis Foundation. So the Arthritis Foundation approached us and asked for us to develop a yoga DVD, and we involved that mentor of mine at Johns Hopkins who took that initial yoga class and thought it could be beneficial. She was involved in the process of developing that DVD, and we're quite proud of it because it has a lot of features that we made a case to the Arthritis Foundation that were important, like a tutorial for how to sun salutation, a 15-minute relaxation track. So if you're looking to get a taste of what we do and how we modify for particular joints, then that may be useful as well.
And often I will teach 8 to 10 weeks of a one-on-one yoga therapy or private yoga session with somebody with arthritis. And then at the end of that, you know, they have this resource of the DVD to continue on their own. For those people that are like really able to focus and use DVD, it can be really helpful.
In the study that we're just finishing now, looking at the feasibility and acceptability of yoga as self-care for underserved minorities with arthritis, we provide the DVD at the end of the study. We don't want to provide it sooner than that because then we wouldn't know, are we studying the effects of the class or are we studying the effects of the DVD? So it would be interesting to someday study the effects of the DVD, but people are very glad to have that as a way to be able to continue the practice at home.
And Stephanie is constantly involved in new research in this field that's constantly coming out. It always impresses me. And a big part of the program is talking about in depth about the research that the program is based off of so that you can speak to doctors and physical therapists and your students in an intelligible way about why this is safe and effective for arthritis. And so we do go into research quite a bit. And that's what attracted me to the program initially, was the evidence behind it. And the association with the Arthritis Foundation was pretty big for me too. So I guess I should, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to brag a little bit about you first because I know you won't do it for yourself. But so Anne is going to be leading the training in Arizona. And before she even attended my training, she had a lot of experience working with seniors, and they absolutely adore her. But after taking my training, she went on to be part of the first cohort ever in the U.S. to earn a Master's of Science Yoga Therapy. So in addition to being a yoga teacher, she also is trained as a yoga therapist at the master's level and has for years specialized in many conditions that particularly affect aging populations, including arthritis, but also balance and fall prevention. And
before I joined her program, I was teaching Tai Chi for arthritis, which is also an Arthritis Foundation program. And I was searching to try to find out, well, I was a yoga teacher at the time, is there some sort of yoga for arthritis? And I got Stephanie's email, and she's like, well, I am pretty much the Arthritis Foundation program because they funded my research. And so I immediately joined her program. It was in Yogaville in Virginia. And then within a few weeks after that, that first cohort of the master's program started, and I was about to apply for a physical therapy school. And Stephanie and I talked, and I was like, well, this is actually what I wanted to do. So I think I was the very last person to join the cohort.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was the last minute, couple weeks before it started, and it was a 2-year adventure. And Stephanie was my mentor the whole time through. And I'm really proud to be teaching this program now and traveling and teaching sometimes with Stephanie and sometimes solo. I really believe in it. It's really it's effective, and my students love it. What do we have next? So I want to tell you some tips that you can use yourself as a yoga teacher, or you have arthritis yourself, some practical tips. It's kind of like overview. We go a lot more in depth in the program about how to adapt poses and how to use the protocol effectively. But here we are. This is actually some of my students right there in that picture. So the first tip, I have 6 tips for you. The first tip is move it or lose it. So they used to say for arthritis, you know, if you're having pain, you should just, you know, lie down and do nothing. This was the doctor's orders at one point. But now there's an overwhelming body of evidence that says quite the opposite, that you need to lubricate your joints, that you need to strengthen around the joints, that movement in moderation and done safely will actually help alleviate pain and restore and maintain functional ability so that you can keep doing your activities of daily living. So right here we have pictured sun salutation on the chair. We have few different sun salutations we teach that are adapted on the chair, on the wall, on the floor with different props. And this is a really great one that I use. I actually use this in office yoga too, like when I'm sitting at my desk too long and I hold on to the desk and this kind of thing. So we go over different ways to adapt that we have found really effective. Anything else to say about move it or lose it, Stephanie?
You know, I think that that's an important point in terms of keeping the joints moving, lubricating the joints, getting synovial fluid to them, and it's also a nice example of how any physical yoga practice can be made accessible with some creative thinking and a few props. So when we think about the classical version of a pose or a sequence, there are always options available for how to make that possible for anybody. And we want those kinds of moving sequences for joint lubrication and also to keep the cardiovascular system healthy and keep blood pumping and warm up the body before we do more challenging asana.
And of course, balance and fall prevention. And the same thing could be done with a walker, which I've done before too.
For a walk, so, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing is we teach different ways to get up and down from the floor because that can be a really big barrier for people. People say, oh, I can't do yoga. I can't get on the floor. Really, I can't get back up again. I could get down there, but I won't be able to get back up again. So we have quite a few different ways, and they're outlined in the DVD. We also have videos online, and we go over in the teacher training of how to safely get up from the floor. So here's one using a chair for an assist. Here is one for somebody that doesn't want to get on their knees at all because of soreness in their knees. I've done this with the bolsters in a yoga studio, but I've also taught in like more gym-like environments where I use steps and I stack them to make the
exercise
step method.
Steps.
Yeah, the exercise steps. So this has been a really great way for some people that feel like they could never get on the floor. It surprises them.
But it's really safe. Some arm muscles to get back up.
Yeah. So that first one is going to be better if you can get on one knee, and the second one is like it's going to take a little more arm muscles, but it avoids getting on the knee. So there's lots of different options we go over.
And I would say, Anne,
okay.
If you go back to where she's using the chair to get on one knee, that putting a blanket or a cushion underneath that knee can also make that more accessible.
Yeah,
Anne is a master videographer. She has a former life professionally. So, Anne, I hope that you'll share your pages where people can find some of your video postings. You have some that have a lot of this kind of material and beautifully done.
Thank you. Hopefully we can send that out as an email. I will also be putting this up on YouTube if you're watching it on YouTube now and have the links underneath so that you can go straight to the videos that show you step by step how to get up from the floor and all these options. So that'll be available for you. Also, you can feel free to email us if it's hard to. So number 2, take it easy. Taking deep, slow breaths and activating the parasympathetic nervous system that rests and digests. We're in this really busy world where we're go, go, go. So deep breathing can be a really key part for a lot of people. Also, a big part of arthritis is that the condition flares. So with stress, with different triggers, the pain and condition, actually swelling, can increase suddenly and go into a flare for a short or long period of time. So knowing when you see those cues and being able to pick up on them and knowing when you need to relax and take it easy to prevent a flare can be really helpful for a lot of people. Stephanie, you have anything to say about that?
That awareness, so you're absolutely right in terms of taking it easy when you notice those signs. But another benefit from the practice of yoga is starting to notice those signs earlier, because mindfulness helps you to be more aware and more attuned to those subtle cues that might give you information sooner that it's time to start taking it easy, possibly even preventing a flare or reducing the severity of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another part, number 3 I have, is seek support. And this support can be, as is pictured, physical support. We use a lot of props, whether it be the wall or chair or bolsters or straps, blankets. We use a lot of props whenever they're available, like creative things at home, pillows. I work in a lot of people's homes, and we make our own bolsters by filling a piece with blankets and making it the perfect size for them. So seeking physical support, but this is also seeking emotional and social support. A lot of people, as arthritis progresses, it becomes very difficult to lose abilities, to lose activities of daily living, to not be able to do the things they used to be able to do and have to ask for help. And so it's okay to seek support and have that network of people in your family and in your life to support you during those difficult times.
This is another way that the Yoga for Arthritis classes can be really beneficial. So one-on-one, certainly you get the most individual guidance and a tailored plan just for you. But in a class setting, you get the support of a community of people who understand what you're experiencing. So we've noticed that in those Yoga for Arthritis classes, there can be really quick bonds and connections between the group, and that they continue to support each other even outside of the yoga class, which is another way that this could be beneficial to health.
Yeah, absolutely. So number 4 we have is no pain, no pain. You probably know the old adage, no pain, no gain, but in Yoga for Arthritis, we do not believe that. It is no pain, no pain, but really what we mean by that is no increased pain, because a lot of people may have an ongoing subtle pain that's just always there. So if you go into a pose and it increases the pain, that's when you know you need to ease off. So it's about finding that place where you can get a stretch, or you can strengthen your body, find balance, but not increase the pain so that you have like a grimace on your face sort of thing. And that kind of goes into the next one, which is figuring out how to feel the stretch right. So I noticed that a lot of my students don't know what is that good sensation and what is the red flag type of sensation in their bodies. So like, for example, if you're stretching your hamstrings, the back of your thighs, and you feel this sensation right behind your knee or in the depths of your knee, then that is what we say is the red flag. You don't want to feel anything right in the joint where arthritis is found. So you want to feel it like in the belly of the muscle, the thick part of the muscle, this like dull sensation of gentle stretching. And it can be intense, but it's different than sharp shooting, like I said, having that grimace on your face, and that like feeling like deep in your joints that is something's not right. So I teach people how to feel the difference between that like good sensation and that like red flag type of sensation. Stephanie, you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, so what you're saying about feeling the sensation in the belly of the muscle, that applies to a pose where you're stretching the muscle, and it also applies just the same to a pose where you're strengthening the muscle. So sometimes when we're doing strengthening poses, which are so important for keeping the muscles strong that help to stabilize and support the joints and keep us capable and mobile, that you want to feel that burning of muscle building and strengthening in that thickest part of the muscle as well.
Yeah, and Stephanie, you had told a story once about in the New York City intercurrent yoga community, which is a really well-developed yoga for arthritis community that's been going on for quite a while, and they have ongoing classes there. You told me a story once about how there was, for a while, people were just doing a lot of stretchy poses, and you were like, all right, you need to get them up and strengthen. And because with arthritis, we need to strengthen around the joint. So I think that's a common misconception. We say, oh, just do some restorative and ease. But actually, strengthening is key. Strengthening and balance are key parts of the program.
Well, you need the yin and the yang, right? So you need that release and that engagement of the parasympathetic nervous system and stretch, and you also need cardiovascular activity and the strength building, and too much of either one is a disservice because you're lacking the other. So just as you said in your first tip, that move it or lose it, so we want that balance between action and inaction, between doing and being, between you know, movement and rest.
Absolutely. And then the last tip is to keep up with your doctor. And as yoga teachers or yoga therapists or integrative health professionals, it's really important that we refer out and make sure that encourage people to be responsible about their own health and go to the doctor or have a team of people that they really trust. So knowing when we need to refer out, if something is out of our scope of practice, is really key. I've also had people come in with rheumatoid arthritis that haven't seen their rheumatologist or doctor in 10 years and have decided to go off their medication on their own without consulting their doctor. So there's situations like that that do come up. So what do you do responsibly in a situation like that as a yoga teacher, as a yoga therapist? And I often encourage people to be responsible to keep up with their doctor. Stephanie, I'm sure you have something to add to this one.
Well, yeah, so it's beautiful that now with the International Association of Yoga Therapists actually have a scope of practice, a formal scope of practice for our field as yoga professionals. And part of that scope of practice suggests that we do not diagnose or treat medical conditions. We look at a whole person from the yogic framework, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they're consulting with appropriate professionals when they need something that's outside of that scope. But we can assess and educate. So we still want information about what's going on so that we can provide the best plan of care or attend to our students in the best possible way. And when we refer, then we develop a network, a referral network, whereby those professionals that we refer to are likely to refer back to us. It's good to know professionals in the medical community that you trust and that are supportive of self-care practices and a healthy lifestyle, and also practitioners in integrative health fields that are our peer professions, like massage therapy and acupuncture and Tai Chi and chiropractic, where people might be able to get something a little bit different than what we're able to provide. And go seek those services yourself and see what they're all about. And I would also say, when you say keeping up with your doc, that it heightens the profession of yoga when we communicate with the doc too, not just our students and and clients, but providing progress notes, just letting the medical doctor know what is happening, what progress you've noticed in the clients that you're working with is a step above what might be expected from a yoga professional.
And one thing I notice now as I've become and still becoming more and more avid on arthritis and on yoga for arthritis is claims that people make, in the field. Or you just do a Google search and you'll see all sorts of articles and YouTube videos about how you can cure arthritis and do these movements, and your arthritis will be reversed. And so, like, there's something really to be said for educating yourself on the field so that you can make claims that doctors and physical therapists and people in the field will not laugh at. We do want to heighten our field, and arthritis, as far as we know from current research, cannot be reversed. It is chronic degenerative. We can slow the progression of. So it's funny how I just start to notice all these sorts of claims from people, and how important it is for us to elevate the field to not make claims that are unsubstantiated.
Well, and even if personally you believe that anything is possible, and I think that there is room for the belief that anything is possible, certainly on the level of the individual, but you also want to speak the language of the professionals that you're working with, collaborating with, referring to, et cetera. And so understanding the way the biomedical world sees disease and health and being able to speak to the role that you play within that framework is beneficial for having a voice at the table and being a respected professional. So speaking about arthritis and about yoga from a biopsychosocial perspective, which is holistic and very much aligned with the koshas that we talk about, but in the biomedical language, can be helpful. And even being a little bit conservative, understating what can be expected from yoga, understating what we know about the current state of the evidence, as opposed to when you try to oversell, it makes it less believable than when you speak about your profession with humility.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things I like about the program, actually, the most, is that we have the science aspects to it and that conservative way of discussing the evidence, but also, Stephanie, you've integrated the koshas and the philosophy, the yamas and niyamas, and all the levels of the koshas we go throughout the process. It's not just about structural and evidence. It's also about the person's emotional well-being and mental and spiritual, and it goes beyond that. So that's one of the things I love most about the program.
We like to share anecdotes too, because it's interesting that even though oftentimes people with arthritis will come to yoga for relief of pain or for improved range of motion, oftentimes they find a whole lot more than what they set out in search of, which of course, for those yoga professionals watching this, you've seen that in other conditions as well. We often think about arthritis as being structural, but of course, arthritis affects all aspects of a person. It affects the way that someone lives. And so yoga, which is a whole person approach, a whole person lifestyle, is really well suited for a condition that also affects the whole person. So I think, and I agree that one of the things that sets this training apart from other trainings that do work with structural issues is that we're talking about it not just on a structural level, but considering the whole life experience of someone who has a rheumatic disease, and therefore how can we use the tools of yoga to intervene in all of the ways that yoga affects daily living.
And we're not really working with the arthritis, we're working with the person that has arthritis. So if you were watching this before September 22nd, 2016. I hope you'll consider joining me in Tucson, Arizona at Yoga is Therapy, which is a phenomenal studio. And you can go to arthritis.yoga to get more information about that training. If you're watching this after that, we always have upcoming trainings coming. We'll be at Kripalu in spring of 2017. New trainings are going up there all the time. And for more resources, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, then underneath the YouTube video, I'll have lots of links to resources for you. If you are getting this in an email, hopefully you'll have links to resources in that email, like the videos of how to get up and down from the floor and other meditations and free things that you can use that have been really helpful for us. And if all else fails and you don't have access to that, just email Stephanie or me, or go to arthritis.yoga and, you know, email through the website. Here's the email addresses right there, and we will send you those resources and answer any questions that you have. So, Stephanie, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.